Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and earlier today, the Affliction and Destruction Warlock buffs hit retail. So tonight, I want to talk a little bit, hopefully not too long, about them. Talk about Destro a little bit in Mythic Plus, because we ran a couple keys today, some 16 knockhoods. I'm still farming my feather and farming Primal Condensed Chaos or whatever for 418 gear. And talk a little bit about Destro, a little bit about AF, and look at some Sims briefly and try and get to the bottom of what's going on, because Destro's been buffed. It's doing more damage than it was, obviously. Its single target's pretty wild. As far as Affliction's concerned, it got a bit of a buff. More buffs are coming in a couple weeks, I'd assume, with patch 10.0.5. But all that being said, tonight, wanting to discuss that, and I guess, well, get to the bottom of it. Two things really fast. Week Wars add-ons, profiles in the video. Links to my Twitch and Discord down below. We can get them all for free if you want. Hop in there, ask any questions anytime. Feel free to do so. Number two, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys for all supporting on Patreon. Appreciate you guys a million times. Thank you. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, it should be linked up here, as well as down below in the video description. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. So when it came to destruction earlier in this plus 16 knockhead we were running, once again, I'm farming my feather still farming Primal Condensed Chaos, whatever they are, for 418 gear. It felt really good when you had your Infernal. It felt like S3, S4 Destro. Your 2-piece, your 4-piece talents are in the top left corner for those that are curious about them. It felt good when you had Infernal. Yes, we're playing Mayhem here, so a bit of RNG and our Havoc procs and all that, but when you had your Infernal, and you had 2-piece, 4-piece procs, and you had the shards, it felt great. But the difference between S3 and S4 is that, and now, is that you have a 3-minute Infernal. You don't have a minute Infernal, a minute half Infernal, and you can't, play Random Chaos with your Infernal either, unless you're putting points into a pretty large investment into that tier, right? So, it felt like, when I had these, I was doing a crazy amount of damage. Good AoE, solid AoE, sustained AoE. You can even see my AoE ramping up over the course of this pack. Yes, there's Spiteful ads. They're spawning now, though. They weren't even active at the start. But the big difference between Destro and Demonology, for example, is that Demonology has that strong snap burst damage. Let's say you're carrying imps from one pack to the next. All you do is go Dogs, Tyrant, Fellstorm, build some Hand Ghoul imps, implode, and you're doing a large amount of burst damage, right? Demonology, strong when it comes to burst. Destro, you can even look back at that pack, put my Infernal down, begin casting Rain of Fires, whether you're playing Havoc or Mayhem, whatever you're playing, it takes time to get ramped up. Packs live for a long time, just like S3, S4 of Shadowlands. You can get more just solid sustained value. You can carry a proc from, or a 4-piece proc from one pack to the next to get a little bit of value, but you can certainly feel it when you don't have your Infernal and AoE. You can even see Demo Lock is bursting here, 111k, 112k. Destro slowly ramping up, 59, 61, 63, 65. We're getting there, but it's the same thing how it was in S3 and S4. Those large, sustained packs, Destro can ramp up. You're getting there over the course of time. And yeah, if this key was higher, 21, 22, sure, we'd have more sustained damage. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Destro played in keys where you have packs living for a long period of time. Higher keys, 21s, 22s. A knockhood's a great example. Packs are pretty dense. There's many packs that are just 5-6 mobs. Require CC, whatever, what have you. Yeah, Spiteful's here, but even with Spiteful being a thing, really isn't that big of a deal in the first place. I wouldn't be surprised to see Destro being played in keys like this versus keys like Halls of Valor or, Cortisars maybe not being the best option. Cortisars having just smaller mob pulls, barring the imps, but the imps require a lot of burst damage, which once again, Demo's good at. So it's hard to say. When it came to boss damage, though, whether it's 2-target bosses or 1-target bosses, Destro felt really good playing this build. You had a lot of just strong single target burst, 2-target burst. We are once again playing Madness in this build. We were trying it out over Havoc. Havoc felt fine. Madness felt pretty good too at times when it procced. It reminds me of Kurok a good bit, where if Madness procs multiple times back to back, you get a pretty insane amount of, just consistent chaining, rolling Havoc value, right? Your consistent just damage buff, all of that. When it doesn't proc, doesn't proc. But either way, whether it's single target or 2-target cleave, Destro felt solid. The burst wasn't as high as Demonology when it comes to playing another portal and things, when you're getting Lust and PI, you're putting out a huge Pit Lord, but it sustained a lot of damage over the course of this fight here, even on the Storm boss. I think I ended the fight at 70k or something. It was a pretty good bit of damage comparatively to what I thought it would be. It hits hard in single target, and we'll look at that in a minute here in Sims. It's ahead of Demonology by a substantial amount when it comes to Sims, even playing this cleave-based build here with no Channel Demon Fire, no Soulfire, or no Conflagration of Chaos. So the buffs certainly help destruction, I don't think it's the end-all be-all ultimate meta spec, but it's certainly not bad, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it being played in keys a bit over the next few weeks, months, however long. But if you're looking for one universal spec, I think Demonology is probably still going to be the play. We'll see where it goes. I wouldn't be surprised to see Destro played more on the high end, comparatively to Demo being played in a more like general mid-tier kind of setting, or Destro being more of like a niche kind of dungeon role, right? Not could, Ruby life pools, maybe that those large just AoE pools at certain times, you get a good bit of value. At the same time, Ruby life pools, mobs die pretty fast. What Destro's looking for is a strong, sustained, I guess, set of mobs. 6-7 mobs live for a while, but you can ramp damage over the course of time, and then make good use of your Inferno value. 7-8 random fires rolling at once, consistent charging coming in. That's what Destro wants. Think Soleil's Gambit, S3, S4. Think the Paxton Naka defensive. That's where Destro and AoE will make up the value compared to Demo, and in the long run, probably be a bit better with sustained AoE. So now that we've seen Destro in combat and that Naka defensive, yes, it was a 16. It can be higher, I'm sure. It's no big deal. I was farming feathers and farming Primal Condensed Chaos or whatever. But what I'm getting at, now that we've seen Destro in single target or in Mythic Plus a bit, it does feel like S3, S4 Destro, but this build's been around for a little while, and it felt like it back then. Does it feel better than it felt before the buffs, the Rain of Fire, and everything else? Yeah, I mean, the damage is better. It feels better. It performs better. But I think one of the big differences between S3 and S4 Destro is that, and now, is that yes, you have Inferno. Yes, you have your 2-piece, your 4-piece. Yes, you even have Madness now. You have Chaos Incarnate. You have Embers. All these good, solid spells, but you have 3-minute Infernal. And the problem is that if you're trying to pull things out of 3-minute Infernal, or if you're trying to get 2-minute Infernal, you're pulling points out of Embers, you're pulling points out of Chaos Incarnate, you're pulling points out of maybe this thing here. This can be a floater point for what it's worth. You can even put it in Burned Ashes, but you're pulling points out of other good abilities that in the end hurt your single target a bit, hurt your charge in a bit, hurt other things in certain areas where it's probably maybe not necessarily worth it. There probably is a 2-minute build out there, and I do want to experiment with it. And yes, for what it's worth, we did indeed play Mayhem in there. I'm not sold on it. We could play Havoc. It's fine. I wanted to see how it felt. Felt fine. Havoc's probably a little better. Not sure. Either way. But the build felt fine. The big difference between Destro and Demo, though, and the reason why I think Demo is still very strong and quite possibly still the best option, most likely still the best option in Plus, is that you have 1-minute CDs with Demo, being Tyrant, being Fellstorm, shorter CDs and Dogs doing AoE, Implosion cycles. You have just Fellstorm on its own, just the big cleave profile that it brings, versus Destro having 3-minute Infernal. Now, yes, you do indeed have your 2-piece or your 4-piece to help carry you a bit. It procs quite often. You have, some rolling Havoc value, some flashpoint value, which is still very good across the board. But it felt at multiple times I was longing for my Infernal. I wanted my Infernal. And I knew, for example, okay, we're pulling the boss in roughly 2 minutes here. I have my Infernal up. I'm not holding Infernal for 2 minutes. I don't want to, I'm going to pop it when I can have the boss either. I mean, and in the end, CD allocation, CD management is an important part of Plus. It's what, makes or breaks groups, and knowing pulls that are coming up that are pre-planned and all that helps a good bit. But either way, there could be a 2-minute build out there. Destro felt good, but I think Demonology damage-wise would have done more in the key overall, and it's more consistent damage when you have your 1-minute Tyrant, your 1-minute Fellstorm, all that kind of stuff. You can just get a bunch of imps in one pack, go into a new pack, cast Dogs, Tyrant, and just rip, right? Versus Destro doing fine, pooling 2-piece, 4-piece procs, pooling shards, all that. But it's the same sort of conundrum we were in at the end of S4. Is like, yeah, they nerfed a lot of Rain of Chaos interactions and things. You have a 2-ish minute Infernal, but you're not able to chain the value forever, right? It feels similar but different. But anyways, so getting into the sim part of this, because I'm sure people are going to want to see how does Destro D1F sim in single target and all that stuff now, post buff. Here we are. So this is the Nether Portal Cleave base build that I've been playing in Plus. I go between Guillotine and Portal a bit, favoring Portal. I played a lot in the raid on most Cleave fights. Implosion, Dreadlash, you're playing in Tauren, Nether Portal, Tyrant, all the good stuff. Sitting at about 70,837 DPS. Now, I also want to say that I'm playing Corrupting Rage here. Forgot to change the file. Doesn't matter. It's universal across every sim. It's okay. No big deal. So this is not Demo's pure single target build. The pure single target build is playing Fell Covenant. It is playing Sack Souls. It is playing about 75,600 DPS. So about a 5k gain roughly across the board for me. It is playing, once again, Fell Covenant, sack souls, and things like that. However, this build doesn't see a whole lot of play when it comes to both the Incarnates, maybe on Taros and maybe Sonarth, but the cleave build is typically more relevant in most fights in Vault, and it obviously you're not playing some plus. But regardless, so cleave build single target, played a lot in plus, 70,837 DPS. The pure single target build, 75,642. Now, this was my highest simming spec. Okay, Destro was a little bit higher, by like 1.5k DPS, I believe, for the buffs. So buckle up, Destro is a good bit higher now. Highest demo build in single target, 75,642 DPS. It's 5:30 in the morning, guys. Give me a break. Destruction, 82,554 DPS. Destruction is simming 7,000 DPS higher than Demonology, which is interesting. Now, the damage breakdown comparatively does look sort of similar to this, honestly. Bolt being about 30, Incinerate being about 20. I've seen a bit more Bolt damage than this. It could be just like the APL is a bit off with Madness, or maybe I am. I don't know. Either way, this is where Destro has been simming for me, roughly. Playing Conflagration of Chaos. Going through here, skipping out on Soulfire, getting Ruin, going into your Infernal, Diabolic Embers, Madness, Chaos Incarnate, Ritual of Ruin, Double Burn to Ashes, and Avatar Destruction. Now, if you say, hey, I want to play Soulfire, I want to sim it and see where it's at. The 100 DPS difference favoring Soulfire. So, if this is the difference, you're not going to catch me playing Soulfire. I'm playing Conflagration of Chaos through Shadowburn. Now, you can do whatever. If you like Soulfire, have fun with it. If you don't like it, play Conflagration of Chaos. But they are both indeed very close. And they're simming about 7,000 DPS higher than Demonology. However, Demonology is much more mobile than Destro. Destro is pretty much, with this build, a plant turret kind of spec. It is the least mobile spec of any Warlock spec out there. Plant, turret, do damage, and hope you don't have to move. Now, you can move a little bit with conflict rates and things, but it is pretty stationary for the most part. But, you know, they're both pretty solid. And these are also like just general builds that I have listed in the spreadsheet and the website also, if you guys want it. Links somewhere in the video down below. By the way, they're the general single target builds, crazy like that. You can find them in various sources and all that kind of stuff. Now, the other thing, people are also wondering where Affliction's at, because Affliction was also buffed. The Sims are in. Now, from what I've heard, the Sims that came in today, keep in mind, Affliction has been buffed. So the Focus Malignancy talent changes, we don't have Focus Malignancy yet. We don't have Pandemic Invocation change yet to a talent tree. We don't have those two in. All we got today were the spell buffs to Agony, Siphon Life, Corruption, CD Corruption, all that stuff, Shadow Bolt, I think, minor buffs. I heard from the Lock Discord it's about a 3% increase in single target. So my Affliction sim is sitting at about 74,179 DPS. However, if you open up the sim and go down to the actual cast sequencing, we talked about it a few days ago, it is still the subpar opener of going Haunt UA, Agony, Siphon, Corruption, Soul Tapping, Rapturing, going Singularity, then Dark Lair, no Drain Souls early on here. It's not casting Dark Lair with Singularity at 225. However, I think there have been some changes in the Lock Discord. I know people in my guild are working on it. I think there's a sort of like a in progress APL being worked on for Affliction that does Singularity correctly, that does open correctly, and that APL or that sim is right here, 76,508 DPS. I have a link to my paste bin down below where the APL is. You can get it from the Lock Discord, I believe, as well. I don't know. It was sent to me, and the rotation looks good, or it looks fine, put it that way. I believe it only works for PS single target builds, not 100%. Once again, no Focus Malignancy here. We're playing just single target build. This is still Pandemic Invocation and Soul Tap. But the APL change does gain about 2.5k roughly over the current functional version. Functional, however you want to word it. So the actual sims you're looking at here, TLDR, Demonology, pure single target build, 75.6. Cleave build, 70.8. Destruction, 82.5k. Wild. Affliction, 76,508. And keep in mind, when the Focus Malignancy changes come in roughly 2 weeks, I'd assume, 2-3 weeks when 10.0.5 hits, what I've seen, once again, they are roughly a 6% DPS gain. So take 6% of this, we're looking at an 80k plus Affliction sim. So, once again, you know, Destruction, not as mobile as Demo or as AF, but I mean, every spec has positives and negatives. But if you're looking at AF sitting at about 80 to 80.5k with maybe some optimizations in the APL still, Demo or Destruction at about 82.5k, and Demo sitting here, Demo can use some buffs, number one. Number two, hopefully you like AF or Destro because looking pretty good. I will say Demonology scales better with Power Infusion and Lust and all that kind of stuff, but keep that in mind. Now, I did take the liberty of also running a few sims, looking at the AoE build of Destro we played in Plus and single target to see roughly what it can do in single target, and I wanted to compare it to what Demonology does. I think Demonology's sim is right here, here. So Demo, keep in mind, the same sim is here, exact same thing. 70,837k DPS, roughly, with another portal, with this build right here, all that kind of stuff, right? Cleave build, Destro, this build right here, we played this earlier in the knock clip we saw earlier in the video. This exact build, having Inferno, having Mayhem. Once again, you can play Havoc, it's fine. Just sort of gaming with it, testing it out. Having 3-minute Inferno, but having Embers, Double Madness, 1 Power Overwhelming, Chaos Incarnate, 2-piece, 4-piece, not even any Burn to Ashes play. No Soulfire play, no Conflagration of Chaos, no CDF. Looking at 72,899 DPS. That's about 2k ahead of the Nether Portal Cleave build, which does a good bit of prio damage. Now keep in mind, if you're holding Nether Portal for the boss, and you have PI and Lust, Demo does scale very well with PI and Lust, and having that huge just damage window when it comes to Portal, and that massive, just big damage you can get in with Portal, Pit Lord, all that, Demo will burst higher. It'll still bring a very large amount of that single target burst damage. This is the 3-minute build of Destro. Now, I did run a sim with a 2-minute build, just memeing a bit, seeing where it's at. I was playing this 2-minute Infernal. You lose about 2k DPS. We're sitting at about 70.1k, which is, a bit less than Demo can do. Still not bad. This is the portal build of Demonology. Once again, fight duration can vary a lot. Movement can affect the sim, all that kind of stuff. But I want to say there's a build out there, maybe playing 2-minute Infernal, but it does, once again, just show the difference between playing, you've got 2-minute Infernal. It might feel better when it comes to certain things like single target. You have no Chaos Incarnate. You have no Diabolic Embers. You have no Power Overwhelming. You're missing out on a handful of decent traits here that are also good in AoE. Chaos Incarnate giving max value to Rain of Fire, as well as Chaos Bolt, as well as Shadow Burn in AoE. And the same goes to Embers, more Rain of Fire is being cast, all that stuff. So when it comes to Destro versus Demo, faster CDs being every minute with Tyrant, Demonic Strength, all that. I'd say they're both pretty close in single target, depending on the fight duration, fight length, if you have CDs for it, and all that kind of stuff too. Destro versus Demo can a lot of factors can affect it. But TLDR, Destro looks really good in single target, depending what you're looking at, whatever build you're playing. I mean, 83k is like a massive jump from where it was compared to Demonology doing this much. Even though, once again, no PI, no Lust taken into account. AoE, Destro feels better. I didn't run any sims here because they're going to be all over the place, but it feels better. Destro will excel, I think, personally, in scenarios where you have long, sustained AoE like we had in S3 and S4 of Shadowlands, where you can sustain AoE for a long time. You can ramp up. Demonology, on the other hand, can have 12 imps out, go into a pack, just cast Dogs, Tyrant, Tailstorm, and blow the world up. Set up a portal in a trash pack or on a boss, and you're doing 300k, right? Huge implosions, more snap kind of damage. Destro can't go into a pack and hit 400k in a second. You have to ramp over time. Different damage profiles. I wouldn't be surprised to see more Destro play over the next few days, weeks, in certain dungeons like Knockhood, things where you're pulling multiple packs together. But the one difference again between like S3, S4, Destro, and all that, and now is like, yes, you do indeed have good talents. You have like Embers, Madness, Incarnate, all this stuff here. You have 2-piece, 4-piece, but you don't have Wilfred's. And you don't have Reign of Chaos. You don't have either. You certainly can't pair them together. So, still strong in certain ways, but weaker in others. Overall, I think Demonology is probably the most rounded spec in Plus, but Destro did indeed gain some ground. And Affliction, in a couple weeks, 10.0.5, it's already good in AoE. Single target gains are 6% more. Could be pretty solid too. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully the video answered the questions, or I guess any questions you might have had about Destro's buffs today, and I guess where it stands in single target a bit compared to Demonology and stuff, and even AF. Now, I didn't really talk about AF much in this video because, in my opinion, the buffs today to AF were helpful, but the big buffs to AF are coming in 2 weeks, 3 weeks with patch 10.0.5, with Malignancy, and with Pandemic Invocation. Now, we'll be looking more at Affliction in the next few days. I am moving in 5 days. We'll be looking at AF a bit more, either before then or after then in the video, depending what I have time for. But I think it's strong. It'll be really good. It'll be competitive, and it's simming like as long as as long as my basic Florida math is right, it's simming close to Destro, above Demonology by a few thousand DPS. So we'll see where it goes, but The future seems to be, I guess, relatively bright for Warlock if you're a Destro AF fan. And Demo ain't too bad either. If you got a big portal, fight timings, PIs, Bloodlust, you're in a good spot. We might not be a rogue, might not be a Windwalker, but hey, we're getting there. So anyways, if you guys have any questions that I missed in this video or anything in general, drop it down below in the comment section, and I will be sure to get back to you. And I also want to give one huge shout out again to my patrons. Thank you guys a million times for supporting Patreon. Really, really, truly appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be linked up here, as well as down below in the video description. And once again, any week wars, add-ons, or profiles you saw, all free on my Twitch and my Discord. Links to both down below. If you want to hop in there, hang out, ask any questions anytime, feel free to do so. Like I said, Destro looks solid. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It feels like S3 and S4, but with 3-minute Infernal, at times, I was just felt I was left lacking. I felt left lacking. I don't know. I wanted my Infernal, and like, yes, you have 2-piece, 4-piece carrying you a bit. You can chain the proc from one pack to the. You can carry the proc into one pack from the last one. Good refunds, still good refunds, and it will scale with more targets with Inferno and all that, right? Random Fire has been buffed by like I think 80% legitimately since Alpha. We're paying for our S3, S4 sins, but Destro's getting closer to be where it probably should have been since launch, and I guess Alpha will be there in a few weeks. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, with that being said, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like and sub button below. It helps out a ton. And I will catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.